Hey guys, welcome to Brian's Man Cave. So today's kind of like a discussion piece because it's something that's just been on my mind, and it has to do with nostalgia. And if you watch my channel, everything I do is pretty much nostalgia. I talk a lot about retro games like the Atari and the Intellivision, the ColecoVision. I talk about the old Transformer toys, old movies that I like. It's all about nostalgia for me. It's all about retro. I don't know what it is. It's just I don't even look at it as retro half the time because this is the stuff that I've always liked when I was a kid. So I think of it as more like I just still like this stuff. I just didn't stop liking it. And so I'm starting to notice, like, within the last few years, maybe even going as far as back as like 10 years, we really started to get into this whole retro phase where all this retro stuff is coming back. Whether you want to use the word retro or vintage, I threw a tweet on Twitter the other day talking about, if something retro comes back, like if it gets reissued in the stores, for instance, is it still retro? And one person actually made a good comment saying, well, retro in itself doesn't mean anything. It just means that something is implied to be old, whereas vintage is actually old. So I guess if you rephrased it, but even still, I mean, what I was trying to really get at was, when you have this nostalgia for something and it comes back on the market, at what point do you say, okay, let's recapture that, let's grab that? Because at the same time, we're always looking back or we're always trying to get the stuff that we always wanted from the past. In fact, you often feel like, is it better to have the original stuff than to have these kind of reissues? Now, the problem is, I don't know if it's a problem or a concern or where I'm trying to go with this, but it's really just the cost. Like, is there a market for this? Is that what's happening? Is there a true market for people like me who want to relive our youth, who want to buy all the old stuff? Because, all this retro stuff has always been sold. You could go to flea markets, you can go on eBay, you could find the collectors, you can go to those, shows, like they have Transformer Con shows and stuff like that, and retro video game shows. You can go there and find stuff, find the original stuff. But nowadays, it's just easier to just buy the reissues of things. And if you don't know what I mean, here's Bumblebee. I did a video on this little guy a while ago. I never had Bumblebee as a kid. I don't know why, I just never had him. I always thought he looked cool and I wanted him, but I just never had him. And, I could have gone through the process of going on eBay and finding someone selling an original Bumblebee for who knows how much money. But along comes a reissue. And not that long ago, within the last few years, I think this thing came out. Maybe a year or two ago. And it's almost like the same. I mean, the packaging is almost the same. Everything about it feels the same. It's just, I don't know what was different. I think that, like, maybe his head was a little bit different. Regardless. I mean, it feels like, you bought the original thing. And I didn't pay a whole lot for this. This was like $11. But still, that seems a little high. Because I think in the past, these things were supposed to be the cheap ones. So $11 seems a little bit high for this little tiny toy. But what really shook me was the Optimus Prime re-release. And, this is Optimus Prime. I have an original G1. This is what this one is. This is the actual toy from the past, the 80s. You can see it's kind of broken there. But this is it. I mean, this is Optimus Prime. Now I'm missing his fists. I'm missing the gun. That typically happens. But they recently reissued this one also. It's a Walmart reissue. And I remember Toys R Us also did reissues at one point. And they wanted $70 for this. Just this. Not complete Optimus Prime. No. They wanted $70 just for this. And of course I'm talking Canadian pricing. So if you're in America, sit down. I know what you're saying. It wasn't $70. But yeah, in Canada they wanted $70 for this. And just recently I noticed that the price went down. Way down. Like almost half price down. So I figure what they were trying to do was build off the nostalgia right away and they put all these things in the store thinking people would buy this. I'm sure there were collectors that buy them, right? There's people that's like, you slap anything on, Transformers on something, people will buy it, right? But I looked at the price going, $70 just for, it looked great. It looked, it's brand new. It's got the fists. It's got everything it needs. But no trailer and $70. It didn't sit with me. And I was saying to myself, like, are they really just trying to gouge us nostalgia people? Because you wouldn't buy this for a kid of today. Because a kid of today probably doesn't want this. They want whatever's new. They want the new Optimus Prime. They want the new toys. They don't want the old vintage stuff. So obviously this was created for me, for us, the nostalgia people who grew up with this stuff. And more recently, actually, and I'm still trying to find one in the store. There's Soundwave, a toy I used to have when I was a kid. I didn't have Optimus Prime when I was a kid. I wasn't lucky enough to have Optimus Prime, but I did have Soundwave, and Soundwave was awesome. And I've always wanted to get them back again, but you go on eBay, like I said, you look up the prices of how much people want to sell the original ones, loose, just like this, no box, no nothing, loose. And they want over $100. So the thought that this reissue came along, and I thought, okay, well, they did have another one called Hot Rod, and he was around $30. And I thought, that's an okay price. I would have paid that. But I didn't really want Hot Rod, so I was like, okay, I left it. I could have bought it. Even when it went down to $19.99, I didn't pick it up. I didn't want it. But Soundwave I want. But then I looked at, I found out the price is going to be like $70 again, and I'm like, well, that's too high. That's more than double what I was prepared to pay for it. And so it just really got me thinking. And it's not just with toys. Toys are one thing. Video games are another. I've talked about this before, the flashback, these all came out. This one I got, this is the Flashback 8. We have the 9 out in stores already. And I paid, well, this one is $50 at Bed Bath & Beyond is where I bought this. And I had like a 20% off coupon. So I didn't feel so bad paying all that kind of money for something like that. But the new one, like the Flashback 9, again, about $100. What's the deal? Why is this one 50 and that one 100? I mean, they're not really that different if you compare them. Sure, it has a few more games on it, but I think all the hardware, everything about it is the same. And it's not just the Atari one. If you've been following all the other emulation devices that came out, we had the PlayStation Mini or PS1 Mini or whatever it was called, PS Classic, something like that. That thing was a joke. I mean, it came out. I remember going to Walmart and they wanted $100 for it. I was like, "Are you kidding me?" People were slamming that thing before it even hit the stores, pretty much just because of the game choices. And I didn't need it. I have an original PlayStation. I have all the games I want to play. There's like maybe one game on it I wouldn't mind having. But if I was going to pay that price, I might as well just get that game. I mean, it didn't make sense. And I've been watching that thing plummet in price. And people just keep putting up memes. They keep putting it on social media, going, look at the price now, look at the price now. It's going all the way down to like, $20, $30 or something like that. And there was kind of an effect, basically the scalpers and the people who were probably buying those things thinking they were going to make money. Because that's another thing that I didn't really mention was the secondary market. Walmart can put these things up for $50, $70, $100, and one person can come along and scoop them up and try and sell them for double that. And kind of going back to the Soundwave, where I said it's going to be about $70. I went on eBay and I looked just for fun to see if people were already selling the reissue Soundwaves, and sure enough, there's people selling them for well over $100. And so, if I really want one, I can go on eBay and pay even more money than $70, which is what I wasn't prepared to pay in the first place. So, my only hope is that they overstock those things, people don't scoop them all up, and I'll be able to pick one up at a discount price. wishful thinking. Kind of going back to the emulator devices, if you remember back in the day if you remember a while ago, the NES Classic, when that thing came out, was a huge nostalgia trip for a lot of people. People wanted that thing. And I wanted it. I was curious about it. I wanted it. And at $50, I would have paid that. But two things happened. One, you couldn't find them in stores, or at least you had to really hunt for them, really get lucky, get there in the morning and pick one up, kind of thing. And two, the aftermarket, the secondary market went crazy, and people were buying all off the shelf. And apparently, like, a lot of the places would only have like 4 in stock. So the first guy in line would be like, I'll take all 4, and then they would flip it on eBay for like $500. Or whatever ridiculous amount of money they try to get for those things. And I've heard that they've been reissued and stuff like that. But again, it's going back to making money off nostalgia. So that's what I wanted to talk about. I mean, it's kind of an interesting topic. It's happening now, and is it something that we are willing to pay? Is it something that it's happening because we are desperate for this old stuff, and we will shell out that coin just to have those precious gems that we either couldn't have when we were a kid, or had them when we were a kid and want to have it again as an adult. Anyways, let me know what you have to say. Throw some comments down below. It'd be fun to open up a conversation on this. I mean, I'm not trying to make this out to be a rant. It could probably come across as one. I'm just curious as to what is going on here and why things like this can end up being sold for almost $100. I just don't get it. Anyways, hope you liked the video. Hope you subscribe. Talk to you later.